Today's speaker, Mike Du Mond, is founder of IdeaWorks, a consumer innovation group. And Mike is going to be talking to us today about creating new product ideas from a consumer's perspective. And when Mike and I got together to talk about this presentation and him doing this about 6 months ago, what was interesting is we both had a long list of products that we either knew of or had been involved with or whatnot that people thought for sure this was going to happen, and then it falls on its face and you kind of wonder why. And Mike has a process to try to identify on the front end what ingredients one needs to have a successful product launch. And we're all here because we're trying to sell something or come up with a new idea that we're going to sell to somebody. And Mike's going to help us figure out what we can sell to people that they don't even know that they need yet. So with that, I will turn it over to Mike, and let's give Mike a warm welcome.
Well, it's always hard to follow the man in red. And And next month, we have a futurist. So January sounds excellent. I'll come and find out what the future holds for new product idea work as well. So again, my name's Mike Du Mond. My name's Mike Du Mond. Very good. Now we can be heard. I needed to turn it on. And again, the company is IdeaWorks, and over the past 20 plus years, I've had the chance to work with many major packaged goods companies and consumer marketing companies across many categories and channels and with many different consumer groups. And during that time, I've been able to see firsthand, what works and what doesn't work and how things might work better. And somewhat out of frustration, like we all try to solve our problems in life, I've created some tools that I've found over the years to work very well as ways to get more consumer perspective into the new idea process. It's not that there isn't a lot of market research out there that's eminently good and very useful, but what I'm here to share with you today are some of those tools and how those might be useful to you in the new idea development processes that you might work on. So we're not getting an echo? All right, great. There's the man in red again, so what can I say? But a few more weeks, it'll be Christmas. So what we'll cover today will be an overview, basically, of the traditional new idea development process, just very condensed, just for a little background. Some of the challenges that are there in working with consumers, which are a key part of this whole process, and also with the new idea development process itself, certainly has its share. And then we'll be reviewing a few tools that you can look at. They may just be idea starters in how you approach it. You'll probably create your own methods, but some of it may be of interest to you, I hope. So many of you out there are entrepreneurs, or you're consultants that work with entrepreneurs. So I'm sure you or your clients have had more than one idea that you thought might have some potential in the consumer marketplace. And that's where it all begins, is with the idea. And it all starts there. But new product success is really not at all about you or your idea. Rather, it's all about the consumer and how they see your idea and how they relate to it. And that's what consumer perspective is all about. And that's what we'll be sharing today. And once you have that idea, that's where you begin the process. And whether it's internal experts or outside experts, you'll be working with R&D or technical resources to verify that and validate the product and develop it, and so that it will work according to your goals and objectives. You'll be working intently internally with idea development teams and brainstorming sessions and other parts of the company to develop and perfect the concept, if you would. Working with cross-functional teams with processing and operations and R&D and sourcing and shipping, what have you, warehousing, retail teams and channel marketing teams, all with the eye of perfecting your product so that you can sell it through the channel and get it into the marketplace. So an overview of it would look something like this. You've got your idea. You develop that product and concept within the capabilities and constraints of the company, leveraging the assets that you have in a way that you're going to meet all the needs and requirements of the retail channels so you can get it on the shelf or in the market. It's a simple process, fairly efficient, but takes amazingly long and is amazingly complicated. If you're doing all that, your consumer is busy living their life. They're human like all of us, and they've got the long list of commuting to work, schedules, agendas, errands, projects, picking up groceries, making dinner, you name it, Little League activities. They're not thinking about you or your product at all. But the challenge is how to include them in that process. And traditionally, this is often done at various steps along the way with focus groups, one-on-ones where researchers interview consumers, target consumers individually, online research, online surveys, online focus groups, even point-of-use research in which a researcher would come out and observe you using that new product, the prototype of it, and to see how it works, what could be better. So a lot of time and expertise is invested in the process, and many of you are in or have been in marketing, and you know all this very well. But in spite of all this investment and effort, more than 95% of all new products fail, and probably 99.5% fail to meet the quotas and goals and objectives perhaps they had established when they introduced them. The challenge is always, how do you integrate the consumer into that process in a way that's really authentic and helpful? And so that's what we're here to talk about today, is how do we truly add the consumer's perspective into the new development process from the start and in each step along the way. And certainly that's a major challenge, and there are several other challenges in this process, as I mentioned. Some involving consumers would be that as consumers, we're all human, and we're hardwired to live out of our past, and the rearview mirror is always on. So we're really a compilation of all of our past experiences and emotions, and to make the matter a little more complicated, most of that's in our subconscious or unconscious. We're not even aware of it. So you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer, but it may not be really very authentic or useful to the assignment we're working on. Or if you have me use your product, but you're standing over my shoulder watching me, I'll guarantee you I'll probably respond a little differently than if I were using it on my own. So the challenge is always there. Plus, we all have personalities, and as such, we're geared to do one of three things in conversation of any type. We'll either try to please, we'll try to be right, or we'll try to look good. And none of those are helpful in the marketplace, because there we're just shopping, busy, rushing, see your product for an instant, see a commercial, you hope, and that's the end of the story. So how do we as marketers make our idea new and yet also familiar for the consumer so they'll be willing to try it? Also, as marketers, we have to be experts in the category. We live it 24/7. Meanwhile, our consumer may be aware of it 7 seconds a month if we're Coca-Cola or Nike or a major brand such as that. For the rest of us, that would not be the case either. So, nonetheless, we have to be an expert to make it work. And how do we do that but still connect with the consumer? Challenge number 2. Challenge number 3, the human mind is aware of only 1/6 of mental activity. Literally, we don't know what we think, but we're human and we're convinced we do know what we think, and we're also convinced we think. But again, much of that thought is driven by our unconscious and subconscious based on incidents and experiences and emotions from years and decades ago. But we've got our story and we stick to it. And the challenge then becomes, if you ask me a question, as I said, it may not be too helpful. So how do we get insights from consumers if we don't ask questions? And obviously that's not to say we don't ask questions, but in addition to that, what are some other ways we might get insights into that consumer? Another challenge with consumer perspective itself and with a consumer is one of, if you change your perspective, you literally change what you see. This is a a picture from some decades ago that a psychologist created to demonstrate to his students and, I suppose, clients that their brain could literally see two images in one picture, and if you look at it for more than a few seconds in the right angle, you'll obviously see two different images there, and it'll reverse back and forth. However, if I just change one element, the context, and place that same picture in a black background, it significantly changes what image your eyes are going to generate first. So how do we discover and keep the consumer perspective and context with our concept as we're working and talking with consumers so we get the information we want? The last challenge, which is a basic one that's inherent in the process, is that new product development is full of risk and uncertainty, and most of us aren't too geared on that unless we really expect a huge payout. But it's an inherent part of the process, so how do we make the process somewhat less uncertain, somewhat more predictable? And that's partly what we'll talk about now. So the answer to all these questions, though, is consumer perspective, and it's really seeing things differently through different lenses. The world doesn't change. It's really how we look at things that changes what we see, if you would, and that holds true in this as well. So what I'll be sharing then are three different tools that you can use. I refer to them as lenses, if you would, but one is a research lab tool. Second are consumer drivers. And thirdly are perfecting lenses that we can use in the process. So with our research lab, by attending this luncheon today, I'm actually going to offer each of you a free membership in a global network of research labs. And as a member, you will have access to consumer purchase trends and insights, expert analysis, volumetric projections, category simulations, and cross-channel, cross-category comparisons of services and products 24/7, 365 days a year. And what's more, each of the research providers that are members of this organization but are committed to developing the research are also committed to spending millions of dollars a year researching consumer trends and behavior, so that these labs are always current and always relevant to any project that you might be working on. You simply have to select which lab best fits the needs of the new idea project that you're involved with. So to redeem this offer, it's really quite easy. You just change your perspective, and you see the retail marketplace and online retail websites as research labs. Whether it's a Target store, a Home Depot, a Starbucks, whatever the venue, an online site, that retail structure has been designed, built based, if any national chain or a regional chain, based on millions of dollars of investment, and oftentimes more. And they continue every year to conduct their own consumer market research, analyze their own sales data, traffic patterns, whatever might be involved that they might deem useful in understanding their consumer, what their needs and desire states are, and how they can best design their venue and stock the shelves to meet those consumers' needs. If you look at a typical grocery section, at one level it's there to serve your needs as a consumer. At another level, it reflects what that retailer has spent in terms of expertise and investment to stock the shelf with products that represent their target user. So by looking at those sections, department by department, and the floor plan of the store, but looking at each item on the shelf, the sizes, the varieties, the quality, the brands, the mix that's there, you'll get an understanding not only of the researcher's target objective, but also the consumer profile of the shoppers that shop that store. And that can be useful and insightful, but at a deeper level, research labs can provide much more, and that is if you look at all of these products, not so much as products, but as carriers of attributes and features for consumers, and what's more, look at them as delivery systems for those attributes and features, you can get far more insights that can be helpful in developing and perfecting the product idea that you might have. But let me show you tangibly how that might work. If we were working in a household laundry category and we were searching and trying to determine different delivery systems for that household laundry product, and it could be in different forms, and we wanted to try to determine which form might work best for the consumer, we might explore liquids, gels, and solids. And if we went out of the channel and went to a stationery and art department, such as this might be, and we made a list on the right side of some of the products that we observed on those shelves, from pens, pencils, markers, Post-it notes, gel pens, erasers, eraser heads, charcoal sticks, paint brushes, water paints, oil paints, glitter beads, and beads, whatever, glitter pens. Any one of those actually has the potential to be an innovative new delivery system in the household cleaning product. At least it did 10 plus years ago when we started on this project. And by looking at these then from the perspective of the cleaning category, we might see opportunities that we could then drag this back in and use it in our exploration of new idea development. At a more detailed level, just three examples out of that category. If we were looking at a pen, that could be a delivery system for a liquid, a gel, or a solid. And because it's got a nice fine tip, applicator tip, it could be used as a spot cleaner for laundry before it goes into the wash. And it's also a proven tool that the consumer already knows. It's easy to use, easy to handle, easy to store. They get what a pen is, right? It's been around for decades. Nothing new about that. But, if we wanted, we could make the barrel flexible if that helped, depending on the project we're working on. And it naturally can handle refills, which are high margin and can be of interest to the marketer and the retailer. A marker is somewhat similar, although it couldn't deliver a solid in this exercise, but it might deliver a liquid or a gel better because of the felt tip. Post-it note, on the other hand, could deliver solids and could deliver quite well, although when you look at it, it's simply a flat sheet. However, the thickness of that sheet could be varied, and it could be multi-layered, so that in essence you could have a laundry sheet that you could throw in your wash that maybe has 3 or 4 different active ingredients, different colored layers of that sheet, and the thickness of those indicates maybe how much cleaning action is in that, and when it would activate in the cycle in terms of dissolving and actually acting. And by having color cues like that, it's actually a great thing with consumers in terms of believability of the concept. Beads are another option. It might not be one that you think of immediately, but certainly a bead can be a solid or it could be hollow. And if it was hollow, it could be a clear bead or at least translucent. And you could have color particulates inside that really are the active cleaning ingredients for the laundry cycle, again, that activate at different times. So within the context of a household laundry product, this could be rather extraordinary and also very functional. So, at a detail level, you could go through several different categories and look at possible delivery systems and forms of product and see what you might bring back into the category, in this case, the household laundry category. In this example, maybe about 10 plus years ago, I was involved working on a project for Clorox, and there we did this very thing, except we looked at many more categories, everything from DIY and hardware stores and paint stores and automotive repair, cosmetic counters, anywhere that you were applying a liquid, a gel, or a solid to see how it's done, how the consumer is already using it. These are products and uses that have already been test proven in the marketplace, and if any of those can be used, the consumer will recognize it and it will increase the likelihood of them trying your product. In this case, it evolved into the gel pen, and for Clorox it's been a huge success. They've extended the SKUs and also extended the concept into their Tilex group for home cleaning products as well. For whatever reasons, I don't know why 10 plus years ago they were still selling bleach in a 1-gallon jug, It's a caustic liquid that consumers' research had shown again and again were concerned about damaging clothing, caustic to their skin. But nonetheless, with this product, they've really experienced tremendous success. And then a few years ago, they finally actually changed their base product into a thicker gel, which, of course, I'm sure has met well with the consumer. So this just gives you a small sense of, if you were working on a new idea project, in this case happened to be in household laundry, how you might look in other categories differently and get insights and concepts that might help you solve your problem. A second example for research labs would be the box cake category. This is another one that really hasn't changed much in decades, other than a couple of new flavors here and there and a bit of a skew maybe towards bars and things like that. But box cake mix is still there, and the premise is you buy their cake mix and make it, and you've just made a Betty Crocker cake mix. It's very good, but it is a Betty Crocker cake mix. You might doctor it a little bit, but it's not designed for it. It takes up a lot of shelf space, 3 or 4 major brands, multiple facings each. But nonetheless, that's the way it's marketed today. But really, it's all about variety and flavor and ingredient delivery. So if we went to other categories again and looked at how variety, flavor, and ingredients are delivered in other categories, paint store, really there's only one SKU generally in paint stores, and it's kind of a white base. And from there, they make any color you want just by putting different combinations of pigment in it. If you go back into the supermarket and looked in the seasoning and spice aisle, you see a whole department devoted to selling small jars of myriad different spices and seasonings and flavor additives that their whole purpose is for the consumer to use it to customize their recipe at home and make it the way they'd like and change it from time to time. So multiple SKUs of flavor and seasoning there. If you went an aisle or two over, you might bump into the ice cream toppings and see a few bottles of different flavors that you could customize your ice cream tonight while you're having it, a little more butterscotch or chocolate or whatever it might be. And if you happen to have seen the new Coca-Cola vending dispenser, which no doubt they spent $100 million plus designing and developing and testing this device, it's a place where you can get your favorite Coca-Cola beverage, and then you can punch whatever buttons you want in whichever sequence you want and get extra cherry, extra lime, whatever may be, up for your taste that day. So those are just some ways that it's done in other categories. That leads to one possibility in the box cake mix world is maybe change dramatically how it's being marketed today. Just have 2 SKUs, 2 products, a chocolate and a white, and then have a whole section of flavor and seasoning and additive shots that the consumer can buy so they can make their cake or brownies or whatever they might want to make really truly their way. And these shots, of course, would offer much more margin potential for the retailer and the marketer and take up significantly less space on the shelf. So within the world of box cakes category, this would certainly qualify as a potential innovation. And again, it all comes from looking at other categories and looking at how problems are already being solved and what kind of delivery systems are already there. So that's the world of research labs when you look at it, again, with a perspective and a lens of delivery systems. A lot of detail, but it's a very effective way to get a lot of great insights very quickly and it's a very cost-efficient way to do it. A second lens would be creating new product ideas really by looking through different basic consumer drivers, if you would, of looking good, indulgence, customization, control, health, wellness, community, simplicity, and convenience. And we as humans make life pretty complicated, but underneath it all, we're kind of pretty similar. We just have a lot of different ways of trying to satisfy those needs and desire states. And these 8 cover the vast majority of human behavior, I would say, that I've come across. And we all satisfy these in different ways. But if we're trying to create new ideas, these can be excellent tools to help us, again, build consumer perspective into that product. So, just briefly, for looking good, it's maybe about success, beauty, and style. It could be the new hairstyle that my wife just got, or the new suit or that Porsche that's in the driveway. It looks pretty good there that you're just picking up next week. Indulgence, on the other hand, is more about you and what you enjoy, and it could be that Porsche in the driveway again. Or it could be nothing more complicated than that extra triple, double hot, skim, double mocha latte that you picked up this morning. So lots of ways to indulge ourselves and attempt to look good in life. Convenience and simplicity are a little more basic since I wouldn't say we're lazy, but we like to find ways that don't require quite as much effort as others. And they're very important in terms of how we look at products. So again, if a product can be seen as somewhat more convenient, or in terms of simplicity, it takes less skill to make that recipe, but it comes out like a gourmet recipe, that's something that as a consumer we might be excited about. Or that desk that you ordered online last year with the simple, easy to assemble instructions that is still sitting up in the attic. Had it assembled the way you thought, you might be more likely to buy another piece of online furniture. But nonetheless, key drivers when we look at purchase decisions and choices in our lives. Health, pure foods, fitness, prevention, kind of big, important aspects of looking good today, really, if we're all about health. That's a good thing to be. And community is, again, a real basic one, often overlooked, but very fundamental. Family, networks, being an accepted part of a group, whether it's being online with Facebook, whatever it might be, community's there. Even Starbucks, meeting friends at Starbucks. I drink coffee at Starbucks. So that's there and sometimes can really be leveraged, although it doesn't show up right at the beginning as a key driver often. Control and customization are maybe the biggies of the new century, at least for Americans. And anyone who's stood behind that person at the line at Starbucks ordering that multi-flavored ingredient drink gets a sense of customization and indulgence. But it's really about my way, my taste, my style. My iPod with my music, when I want to listen to it. I'm in control. And also less work, less pain, 5-hour energy. I need a boost, right? I want to control my body. I want to control my life. Give me the remote control so I can watch what I want when I want. So on the one hand, these are all, they're all just key drivers, but if we're intentional about creating through these and creating concepts through these, it can really be helpful, again, to more quickly get at possibilities that can be really successful in the marketplace. And these are always working 24/7 across categories, channels, products. It never stops, and as marketers, the challenge is to observe these and stay ahead of the curve. But whether you're a maker of PC computers, watching the tablets go out of the store because they offer more convenience and portability and indulgence. I can get music and emails and look at pictures 24/7 when I'm waiting at the doctor's office or anywhere else, and I can carry it with me easily. Or Best Buy with a real business challenge of how to respond to Amazon and online retailers and how to make Best Buy a meaningful place from a key driver standpoint so that I as a customer have a reason to go to Best Buy. I mean, they used to bring people in the store 10 years ago with music and with DVDs. They had store traffic people had a reason to go to a Best Buy literally almost every week. And that's all faded away, so now they're much more of a destination store, and their challenge is how to address the right consumer drivers, again, to attract shoppers into their store and to buy their products, and not then use them for shopping and buy online. So challenges everywhere, really, as change continues. Newspapers and magazines, losing money, struggling to stay in. Online news, the free alternative and again, readily accessible whenever I want to read it. Cell phones, big business, But voicemail messaging, while maybe it hasn't declined, certainly many people prefer text messages because they can control when they listen to those messages and if they want to listen to those messages and listen to them anywhere. So text message offers a lot of convenience to the receiver of those messages. Grocery store world continues to evolve with lots of competition, not the least of which is the health Whole Foods or the more exotic Trader Joe's, things like that, with a broader selection, more interesting food. Yoplait, General Mills, working, I would guess, aggressively to try to figure out how to respond to the whole world of Greek yogurt, which, raise your hand if you thought about Greek yogurt 5 years ago. Really just seems to me to be kind of a low moisture, denser yogurt. Hence it's higher protein per serving, but consumers, hey, they're locked into the high protein story and the nutrition halo. So you just look at the shelf facings in the store, you can see the dramatic volume they must be doing. So at any rate, these drivers continue to work across categories, making winners or losers, and the challenge is to stay ahead of that curve by staying tuned into the drivers in your category and what you can do about it. The Starbucks example I mentioned 20 years ago or so, if I was standing here and offered you the opportunity to invest in a business idea that a friend of mine had, in which at that time people actually bought cans of coffee for a few dollars, and instead of buying that can of coffee and making it at home in the relative convenience of your kitchen, in my business idea, you were going to be getting in your car and driving over to my store. You were going to stand in line, and then you were going to get your coffee and pay $3, $4. Hey, if you want a specialty drink, it can go a lot higher. According to Starbucks, they've got 87,000 different combinations of ingredients that a consumer can order in their store. Fortunately, I've not been behind that shopper, but they do offer a lot of indulgence and a lot of customization, and that's a lot of the reason Starbucks is so successful. It's really that simple. A great execution and other things. But again, all about indulgence, customization, community, looking good. That PC that isn't selling quite as well today as it was, really all about, again, indulgence, customization, looking good, and convenience. These drivers, especially for out-of-home use products, continue to show up for us. But being aware of them and how they interact across categories and across products can be very insightful for you in developing your new product concepts. So with a tablet, hey, I can load up my apps, I can watch the news and games and pictures and anything else, read news online anywhere I'm at. It's highly convenient, and it may have a little coolness too, especially if it's made by Apple these days and it's white. People will spend a couple $100 extra to, I think, be current and cool, and it's working for Apple, at least it has been. Netflix, again, delving into the history archives, a decade plus ago, a chain called Blockbuster came on the venue at some point back in the 90s. With a really novel idea. You didn't have to buy a movie anymore. You could rent it, and they quickly became a huge, successful corporation. And then streaming media came along, Netflix maybe being my example of that. Blockbusters these days, I don't know really why people go into Blockbusters, but a few still are open. But definitely they're on the way out just because they've lost the curve of convenience and indulgence and, using my remote at home and watching what I want to watch when I want to watch it. And in a sense, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but right now the streaming media is really playing off the inventory of media that's already been developed by the network cable and television channels, plus the movie production studios. But when I'm watching TV at home, I really can't watch two things at once. And I tend to gravitate towards Netflix because I don't have to DVR anything, and there's more things I've never seen than are produced. And so in a sense, Netflix is competing very seriously with the providers of their own media. So at some point, someone has to start paying for that media in real dollars. But in the meantime, it's a boon to streaming media and to consumers like me. So the other thing you can do with those consumer drivers is take one of those drivers and go back out into the research labs we discussed a moment ago, and just walk through a couple of different types of, a Target store or a grocery store or whatever, with a lens on of customization, and just see what products are in what categories that are designed to be customizable or designed to be, well, looking good's a little more challenging one maybe to find on the shelf sometimes. It's all over the place, but we don't always see it for what it is. But nonetheless, if you take a couple of different drivers, maybe control or health, and do that, you'll be amazed at how you look at products differently and perhaps what insights, again, you may have in the category you're working in. The third lens is really, I call for perfecting, although you could use it for idea development, but it's all about keeping that consumer perspective throughout the process, because it's so easy to again, become the 24/7 expert and lose track of your consumer. And what these are is really being related to the consumer's past and creating your product so it does link up with the consumer's past, relevant to the present in terms of better, easier, faster in the consumer drivers, and intuitive now so you get it immediately at the shelf. I mean, you've got 7 seconds. And if you haven't sold me in 7 seconds, I'm probably on to the next category and stop looking at your product or your TV commercial. So you need to do all three, and rather than developing the product and then trying to determine how to do this, and not that you can't do it, and not that people don't, and not that that literally is what happens, but by being intentional on incorporating this in at each step of the way, you'll end up with a product concept that's already got these features and is much more likely to resonate with a consumer. It's kind of like meeting someone for the first time, the trite story of being in another country and you meet someone from the United States and, oh, you're another American. And then you find out they're from your home state, and of course then the affinity is even closer. Well, that's all about relatedness, Oh, we've got these things in common. And then you're talking and you discover that you both have a passion for extreme rock climbing, for reasons I'm not sure of, but these two people did. And it's all about physical fitness and challenging themselves. And hey, lo and behold, you've got the same kind of passion right now. And that's one of your drivers, your indulgence and passion about this. So now you've got this relevance in the present. This person shows up, and it happens to be that they're a salesman, and so they're very talkative and explain what they're interested in very quickly. So it doesn't take you much more than a few seconds to get that they're into rock climbing, if you would. So the point being then, in a matter of a few minutes, you can have a friend that you've met just because they're resonating with you. And with a product, it really needs to be somewhat similar. Working with Carmex, basically started out as a medicinal product for cold sores and then cracked lips, and then they introduced their stick balm. But they wanted to create a product that would resonate with females, and never could get them to take the medicinal totally out of this product. But nonetheless, how do you relate to females if you're a Carmex product? And so what we created for them was a concept of Moisture Plus, and it was a lip balm, the first one that actually had a slant tip, which was surprising to me that it wasn't already there, but it wasn't. And it was in a tube stick shape, so a woman immediately got it in terms of being similar to the cosmetics that she already buys. It's an ultra hydrating balm, vitamin E, aloe, sunscreen, so it addresses a lot of the interests that a woman has. And the product had the slant tip. The sub-brand is Moisture Plus, and the generic descriptor is ultra hydrating balm. So the consumer got it at the shelf and understood the premise and the concept. A final example would be a project with 3M. They had perfected a better sandpaper that sanded faster, and truly did, and they were wanting to determine how best to communicate and position that with the consumer, and using relevance and intuitiveness and some of the consumer drivers and other things that we did as part of this. But what we created for them was the concept of Sandblaster, which segmented sanding into 3 steps, if you would, so the consumer could relate to it better. Stripping paint off, bare surfaces and between coats, color-coded the line to reflect that and communicate that on the shelf in an instant. And then the relevancy came with less work, cuts faster, and lasts longer. Everyone that would like to sand longer, raise your hand. There won't be too many. So anything that can make less work out of sanding is a good thing. And because this sloughs off the particulates that clog up the minerals that allow it to sand faster, also reduces the heat buildup, which means the minerals don't break down, which means the sandpaper lasts longer. And now you know more about sandpaper than you intended. But it is an excellent product, really works. And through this process, we were able to help communicate that in an effective way for 3M, and it's become a very large consumer DIY business for them, and they've extended it into ergonomic tools and other things. So with that in mind, you certainly have your own ways of creating ideas, but hopefully some of these tools that I share with you will help you go out and create better and easier, faster with consumer perspective in your own way. So thank you very much.